Hello and welcome to our tutorial. So in this tutorial we're going to look at adding some detail into our character, and this character is for 3D printing, so we're not going to be doing sculpting. We're just going to be trying to set up some basic sort of shapes for clothes, etc. So the character is far from perfect here. As you can see, there's the scale issues, and in general we could do it. Seems to be slightly bigger, and yeah, there's a whole bunch of fundamental things we should fix, but we're just going to have a look at the methodology of how you would add in some detail, and we had a look at this some of this in class. So if the kind of theme of what we're making is sort of a space kind of sci-fi kind of theme, we'll have a look at maybe how we would add some sort of a suit to the character that would fit that theme. So let's start maybe with so we haven't applied our mirror modifier yet, so we can apply our detail on one side and it'll mirror on the other. We can always make it asymmetrical later. So we'll start with maybe kind of this sort of hip area here. We'll give the character some sort of kind of shield or something on their leg. Now, before I do this, I should probably have a look at the profile of the character. So the whole character, its body is all very, very thin. It's quite cartoony. So we probably need to take the entire, sort of body, maybe minus. Oh, hang on, that's not what I meant to do. So minus maybe the hand, and maybe minus that, and kind of scale it slightly on Y. Okay. Okay. So far from perfect, but we'll give it a whirl from here. Okay, so let's see if we can add in some sort of not armor, but some sort of padding or feature on sort of the suit that the character is wearing here. So I'm going to press extrude and then escape. And then I'm going to, from the front, I'm going to go kind of scale it up a little bit. Now, when I scale it here, you can see I've got my proportional editing on. So I'm going to scale a little bit. I don't want to scale it vertically, so I'm going to scale it back on Z. And then I'm going to move it slightly on the x-axis. That's probably too big a feature, but we can't have it too small or it won't print. So I'm going to add a loop cut here to kind of define its edges a little bit more, and a loop cut here. Now I probably need to add more in here at the top, but I don't want to add in too much just yet. So and in fact I'm going to remove that last one there. So I'm going to do something similar sort of for this kind of shin area. Maybe we'll add in something just around the knee. So we'll take this here, and again we'll extrude and escape. I'm going to scale it up and maybe scale it down on Z, move it slightly forward on Y, and again we're going to add in a loop cut to kind of give it a sharper edge. And this time what we might do is we might add in a loop cut here, and then we're going to make it look like the sort of a strap going around the outside. So what we'll do is we'll take these here, and we're going to go use sort of the same technique: extrude, escape, press S, G on the y-axis, then Control OR, and go that way, and then we are going to join these together. So I'm going to go face select and select all of these faces here and delete them. And then I'm going to just join some of these together. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll try and keep it all quads, because this will definitely bend and deform as the character moves. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And there should be a face we can put in there. So again, we might need to put in a loop cut here to make more definition on that. And we'll do the same here. So we'll delete these faces. Now this is just one example of the sort of detail you can put in. You don't have to copy what I'm doing. In fact, please don't do that. But just kind of looking at sort of the technique, you could use the same technique for adding in a belt, or some sort of, I don't know, if the character had a cloak or some other item that's sort of, you know, at their elbow, or, you know, something strapped on their shin, etc. So so I should probably do this here. So I'm going to do this for here as well. So again, slightly laborious, and all of these things, as you probably know by now, take time. So extrude and escape, and then S, move it back slightly on Y, add in that additional loop cut to sharpen the edge of it, and then again we'll join these together. And the saving grace of this is that we have the mirror modifier on, and only have to do this once. Oops, and F1, 2, 3, 4. Now we may end up, because of how I'm joining all this together, we may end up with some issues with normals and faces pointing in the wrong direction. But if we do, we'll deal with them. 2, 3, 4, and face. Okay. And then this is the last one over here. And then we'll do one similar to this on that kind of pad we've put on the hip. So delete the faces, and then we'll just join these up. I'm sure there's a million ways that are faster than doing this. This is grossly inefficient. But again, it's about using, in terms of what you have to do, it's about using very basic tools, looking at, you know, the effect that like polycount has on curves, etc. So all of this is relevant to that. So I'm going to add in a loop cut here, and I'm going to use the same technique to take this one. We'll just have one in the middle. So we'll extrude that, hit escape, hit S, go GX. We will control OR, and then join them up. Okay. Oops. That one, and that, and that. Okay, and then I'm going to go to vertex select. And that one, that looks, yeah, maybe it's okay. And we'll fill this one in, and then one more. Okay, so again, you can see that there's, I can fix, I can add a loop cut in here, and move that across. Oh, no, well, let me move that across. We can see it's added. So there are ways to fix this. Like I can add in a loop cut here, and it'll get rid of that kind of, but we'll, you know, restrain ourselves for the moment before we add too many loop cuts in, or we'll end up, we have to be careful not to add too much in, or we'll end up with kind of what look like seams in the character. That will look kind of unsightly, and they won't deform correctly either. So we'll add that in at the end when we've or closer to the end, when we've a better idea of the overall sort of setup. Face 1, 2, 3, Nope, hang on. Okay. So, so again, we have, you know, we have to set up sort of the torso here, so we can use a similar technique here. So we'll take this area here and maybe have this sort of connected. So up as far as sort of the chest there. So we'll extrude, escape, we'll press S and then G on Y, move that out, and we will loop cut that. I can always move it back in. Control or make it a bit more defined. So we've got this area here, and what we'll do is we'll have something similar at the back. Maybe, what am I on face select? Yep. Yeah, we'll have this kind of come around a little bit more. So we'll extrude, escape, we'll scale it a little bit, G on Y, and then maybe move it on X a little bit. I might need to do that with the other one, and loop cut that, and again then we can add a loop cut there, and that'll allow us to join these two pieces sort of together. Now this is sort of like, you could use the same sort of technique for, you know, if you're making, you know, leather armor on an orc or something. Do remember, if you are like I am doing here, if there's things getting in the way like this arm, you can always just select it all and then hit H. And then when you go into solid mode, it's out of the way. And so what am I doing here? 1, 2, 3, 4. What am I doing here? Sorry, 1, 2. Okay, so these ones here I need to. Yeah, need to move that out a little bit, so it's easier to get at. So I've got 1, 2. What am I doing here? Aha. So that. That. What am I doing? So it goes 1, 2. I know what I'm doing. 3, 4. Face. 1, 2, 3, 4. Face. 1, 2, 3, 4. Face. And then underneath here. 1, 2, 3. 4. Face. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I think that's what I'm doing. And it looks, again, we can fix that, but so that's roughly what we're going to do there. For the torso, we might need to, that's a bit sort of angular there, so we might need to, with this turned on, go GZ and make that a wee bit rounder, and do the same sort of on this one. And okay, but we can worry about that. So we're going to have a look at the arms. We're going to do kind of something similar with the arms, and we'll start with the shoulders. So we will kind of make a sort of a mild sort of a shoulder pad, which you see quite frequently in sort of sci-fi kind of characters, from maybe inspired by Space Marines, I don't know. But extrude, escape, and turn proportional editing off, GZ, and scale it back down a little bit. So this is just something small, so we're not trying to make a Space Marine. And again, we're going to use the same technique. We're going to go Control OR and loop cut this and try and get more kind of definition, sort of a harder edge around that object. And keep in mind, we have a subdivision surface modifier. So in the viewport, we have this set to view 1. So that's the actual kind of level of detail. So it's actually it's a sharper line when we render this, or if we were to apply the subdivision surface, which would bring the character up to about whatever 67,000 verts, which is not bad at all for a game character. We'll just knock that back to 1 for what we're doing. So I'm going to very simply just Alt H so I can see my arm, and we'll just do some work on this arm here. So let's go to vert select here. So I'm going to select a few loops here. Yeah, maybe just that one there, and add some sort of like an arm greave. So I'm going to go extrude, escape, and then scale. Now, if I try and scale this down on Z, it won't quite match. So I'm just going to go by hand. I'm going to take that loop and go G, going to move it to there, and do the same here. So take the offending loop, which is that one, and move that to about there. So I'll take this one, make it a little bit smaller, and then move it kind of up into this. And again, we're trying to make it look like there's some sort of, like when this 3D prints, that there's some sort of ridge or kind of demarcation between where one object starts and the other one finishes. So again, we'll take that, we will scale it in a little bit and move it inside here, and I can go Control OR that loop there. Okay, so we get a better picture of it over on this side here. Okay, so that's not too bad, you know. So we could do all sorts of, you know, we could probably add in something here, kind of in the chest area. And extrude that out, and again put in a mild, so we've got GY, and add a loop cut in here, give a bit more definition. This is sort of indented, sort of to give an idea of a sternum, sort of or a chest cavity, so you probably wouldn't have that on a plate here, but you might have this whole section here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we turn that back on, and I'm going to move that back a little bit to give it make it a bit more three-dimensional. And I might need to do same with that one now. Bring that back a bit. Okay. And then it would make sense then, just kind of to be consistent, if we're joining stuff together, that we would maybe try and join these two. So that would require a loop there. Now that's added a huge string of geometry, so I'm not going to do that. See if there's another way I can join them. Maybe, how would I do that? You know what, there's no easy way to do that. So rather than forcing it in, I can put something on top if I want, but I'll just leave it for now. So I could add something here on the bicep, but actually I think it probably looks better without it. So this, that's sort of the kind of level of detail that we wanted to add here. So not a lot. I'm gonna again just scale this up a little bit. Maybe have that go in slightly, and we might just do a tiny bit of work on the boot, and so I think let's move this up a little bit. And I need to just move this slightly that way. Okay. So I haven't really added much detail here. I could add some straps. So the thing I'm going to do now is just want to make the character a little bit asymmetrical in terms of design. So to do that, I'm just going to actually before that I might add something to the head, make some sort of helmet or something, so that we have to kind of complement the sort of sci-fi theme that we've got going. Okay, so there's all sorts of ways to do that. If I wanted to add a hat, I'd probably go in and extrude stuff out here. Helmets are you could spend an eon just doing helmets. So let's see if we can make something simple. So I'm going to put my 3D cursor here, and I'm just going to build something and then kind of join it up. So I'll add a plane and scale it down. We'll just rename it here. We'll call this helmet, and scale that right down there. You go into edit mode and move it all, GX to that side, turn that off, and add a mirror modifier, and turn on clipping, and GX, and then I'm just going to select each vert and then turn on, we had a very brief look at this in class, so snapping to face. So I'm going to go G, and G, and G. So these verts are now sort of on the face of the skull. Now, for what I'm doing, I don't necessarily need to do that, but we'll see how we go. So I'm going to extrude 2 along the y-axis, and we'll make sure they're also adhering to same. So I can select both of them, extrude on Y, and so I'll use that sort of as our our starting point. Maybe we'll do one more. So extrude and to there. Okay, and let's see, where's the rear of this? Take those two there. Extrude them backward. And again. And it's more, so yeah, I won't go too mad with this. Extrude. This is probably a separate tutorial, but anyway, we'll do what we can do. When you have 2 or more selected, it'll take the median point between them and place that median point onto the surface of the the closest face. And we want this to sort of cover the ear, so we'll do one more. So extrude. Okay, so I'm going to take these and I'm going to extrude them to here. And then take that and extrude it to here. So this is going to be like as a helmet, it does not need in any way the same level of sort of like the contours and the detail don't need to match the kind of topology of the face underneath. So we'll actually put this on the jawline and extrude to there. Extrude there, and So we've got our kind of basic shape. I'm going to take this here and I'm just going to extrude the single vert. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll link it to this one 5. So I'll do face there. Okay, so that's basically what I've got. I'm going to take my character, whoops, and hide that, and then just have a look at what what we've got here. So I'm going to take that and extrude it backwards on Y. Add in a loop cut there. So I don't like. So I'm not trying to follow the skull necessarily. I'm just trying to get a decent design. And I will have to sort of tweak this, so this won't exactly fit, shall we say. So I can join them. So I go face, control, or move that out on X. Join these here. Do the same with that. Another loop cut and fill that in. I've got 2 here, so I'm going to go double loop cut, and they can go to there. And we've nearly got a basic sort of fit here. If I move that slightly forward, I can get a quad and a quad. I don't really need to stick with quads here because the helmet isn't going to particularly animate. Okay, so as we did before, I'm going to take this, I'm going to hit A, I'm going to extrude and hit escape, and then I'm going to hit S. Now I could do it that way, and G on X, and probably G on Y a little bit. So I could make a helmet that way, and then go Alt H, and there's all of the things that we had hidden all popping back up. Where's the hand? I think that's them all. And then it's a matter of what do I want to do with that helmet. Do I want to make it smooth shading and then add a subdivision surface modifier and then go in and add more? Like, is it that sort of helmet I'm trying to make, or is it more sharper and it's going to cut? And then obviously I can add all sorts of detail to it. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to delete that. Oh, I have 2 things selected. I'm going to delete that, and instead of using that technique, I'll just show you something else here. So I'm going to delete my subsurface modifier, and I'm going to add a solidify modifier, and then I can just pump in the thickness of this, and I can bring up the model that way, which is an interesting. Now you don't have as much control, so it sets the thickness of the piece consistently throughout. So what did I do there? Shade flat, there we go. And then you can just apply that if you want, and then deal with sort of the consequences of it. So you can see that the origin of this is not, it's not completely symmetrical, so it's more on one side than the other. So I should probably go G and X and center it up a little bit. So yeah, so there's all sorts of things that we can do to try and make the character look a bit more measured or designed. And then obviously what we're looking at here is all of the time we spent modeling the ear was completely wasted. So yeah, so you have to sort of think about these things before you do them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to apply the solidify modifier. Ooh, let's not do that. Let's apply the mirror first, and then the solidify. And then if I want, I can always select 1/2 and delete it, and then add back the mirror modifier, and that's all good. And then what we'll do is just add in kind of like a peak to it. So we'll put that there, there, and we will. Now at this point here, you could take a tool like box cutter and have lots of fun. So we'll bring that out, and we will join. So that and that. We'll delete those faces, and then we'll just join this up. So 1, 2, 3, and face 1, 2, 3, 4, and face, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay. And I do not have clipping on, so that's why that's over there. So 1, 2. I'm just gonna bring that in on X. Okay. So you know, I could spend a lot of time on this, and you know, we're already nearly half an hour in or thereabouts. So I'm going to stop there. Yeah, so there's things that are not right. So the feet are too small, and there's all sorts of scale issues. But at least we have a character here that has, you know, a design, has clear features, and most importantly for what we're doing, and it's just an exercise, we're going to print this, and it'll have, you know, it'll be not a generic character like a humanoid. It'll have, you know, someone will go, oh, that's a sci-fi character. So probably need to, this is a bit nappy-ish from the back, so we probably need to do a little bit more here, but we won't worry about that too much. So I'm going to save that for now, and then we'll come back and we'll look at putting in a rig and posing the character before we print it, and then the final thing we'll do is we'll just kind of color it in a little bit. So I'll leave this one here for now.